Africa is primarily energy infrastructure, which includes power plants across a very wide range of technologies, both renewable and traditional, and integrated energy facilities such as the unique one, the one of a kind we developed on Lake Kivu in Rwanda, which derives methane from methanized water in the lake and then converts it to electricity. So I have helped develop more than 1 gigawatt of capacities, and I don't remember how many projects did not make it to the finish line. But yes, this is my primary involvement.
DJ?
Hi, so I'm involved in 2 spaces, one in the UN where I'm doing a lot of public-private sector partnerships. Already we're working on Nespro, bringing Nespro into Africa in a more substantial way. In terms of the private sector, private equity in agriculture, polyphenols, cocoa, and coffee and teak in South Sudan, Liberia, the region, and just this morning approached by a financial house in London, which are looking at sovereign funds, which is going to be very interesting to see how that moves on. So that's where the space I'm in.
And then Chris Mayo. You're on mute.
All right. Yeah, in general, we look at sort of real asset businesses and businesses related to logistics. In Africa, we're involved in a fintech platform that helps facilitate trade finance, which has become interesting because we really started out in West Africa. And as we've sort of moved north and east, modified our platform and our business model a bit to facilitate for Sharia compliant trade finance that is a little bit different than you see in sub-Saharan and Western Africa.
Chris, a quick question. So are you only in Francophone or only in Northern Africa?
No, no, it just sort of started, the business started with some folks
Right.
who were really based out of Cameroon.
Do you know a platform called Countable? Countable.
Oh, Countable, yes.
Yeah, you know them. Okay.
Yep.
Competitors?
Theoretically, yeah.
Okay. Let's talk after this. Let's talk after this. I have an idea for you.
Okay.
Or Susan Payne. Sorry. Mike Daly. Susan?
Oh, girl.
Yeah, sure. Sorry. Off to you.
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, so my interest in Africa kind of was prompted by my time at Anderson, most recently Anderson Global. They've been on a huge push to connect with legal and tax in Africa as a way of supporting the global high net worth, our global investors. As ultra high net worth is not restricted to the United States. Beyond that, my great uncle was a missionary in Tanganyika, and yeah, I think that Africa is huge player in the future of the planet. So
great. Susan, can you hear me? Everybody, switch to AirPod.
Hear you fine.
Okay, Susan, you want to introduce yourself? I don't think she can hear us. Go ahead, Erica.
Oh, hi, I'm Erica Lill in Seattle, Washington, and I'm really here to listen, probably more. I've just started working with a gentleman that and a woman here that is putting together a fund for female businesses in Senegal, as well as oil kind of storage in a new port area that I'm not really into oil and gas normally, but in emerging countries, I understand the necessity for to help things go forward. So thank you for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to learning more. Good morning.
Great. Awesome. Oh, Susan, you hear us now? Let's keep going. Michael, or actually Richard. Richard de Villiers, South African.
Yeah, hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Mark. Richard de Villiers with UBS International. We look after international clients, including many South African clients who invest in the US. My interest in Africa is obviously I was born there. I'm South African, living in New York. Family were heavily involved in anti-apartheid. Was very lucky to meet Mandela many times. Happy to make introductions, Mark. To economists at various banks. Know a lot of private equity guys there. Know a lot of venture capital guys. Happy for us to get together and bring them onto the stage for a theme or just general specific market updates. Thanks.
That's great. And you've been great in getting the UBS CIO to join us. So we'll lean on you again. Nazuba, you want to say a word?
Sure. Hi, everyone, and thanks again for this. I'm Nzube Ufodike. I am Nigerian via England, born here in the UK. My active interests in Africa are quite varied. Currently on the board of a couple of fintechs, doing various things in mostly Nigeria. Also an advisor to a few other companies, and it's mostly around corporate finance, but I also support with their fundraising strategy and some introductions for business development. And this cuts across oil and gas, commodity trading, and a renewables fund. Also on the board of a small boutique hotel, a family hotel in Nigeria, that I'm actually thinking of stepping away from, but that's a different story. I think you're on mute, Mark.
Oh, you guys a beer. John Fluke.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've not been involved in anything in the African continent for quite some time. My company, Fluke Corporation, had a operating subsidiary in South Africa, both in Cape Town and Johannesburg. We're an electronic instrument manufacturer, and we've done business there for probably a couple of decades. As a direct operation on the ground there, but this was probably the age of apartheid was my most vivid memory of our activity there. We were employing non-whites in both Johannesburg and South Africa. About half our headcount was non-whites, and it was in the age of apartheid, if you recall that, the Sullivan principles, all that sort of stuff. That all seems to have subsided. So I'm just interested in what's going on now.
Sure. It's funny, for a Denison event, I showed an article I wrote when I was a freshman about apartheid divestment from our endowment. Actually, it would be ironic or elegant to bring our CIO of our endowment to this sit-in.
Oh.
Whatever it is, 30 years later. Who else? Michael Fields.
Hi, everyone. Michael Fields, based out of Denver, Global Strategic Finance. I haven't really actually been very active in Africa. I've seen a number of deals through the years. I work with I've been focusing more on emerging markets. I've been seeing more opportunities, whether it be in fintech, infrastructure, renewables, and even healthcare recently in Africa. So for me, it's more of a curiosity to learn. There's a number of, for various reasons, there seems to be a lot of connectivity from Colorado to Africa. Companies like Mobile Accord that were doing both, they were doing a lot of taking censuses and having direct connectivity, and also money flows for emergency response. company's 1001 Voices. That's also based here in South Africa, investing in a number of agriculture, ag tech businesses. And I just had met the founder the other day. I'm really kind of, as I said, more fascinated to kind of learn. Also, a friend of mine, he's from West Africa, East Africa, and he's based here in Colorado. Been used to work for the World Health Organization, and he's working with a startup here. And a lot of it's been on logistics, on being able to track medicines globally. And obviously, the big issues that are confronted from a logistical standpoint, from temperature and other controls going into Africa and emerging markets in general. But anyway, look forward to learning more.
So when I want to say 6 months ago, we put this slide together. So Chaz Walker is an investor in different countries. Again, Christophe Charlier, he stepped down as Renaissance's chair, but we were going to move all around Africa with Christophe. We still can. He's looking at launching a SPAC focused on Africa. Nikunj headed all venture for the IFC, and now he's doing other things, including Africa Grow. Peter Kakundo, I met in Moscow on a deal when he was with the IFC. Clodagh is sort of like your kind of person, Jonathan, is deploying, capital globally on behalf of Old Mutual. And Nana, I think he's a Michigan alum, has a TV program in Ghana, if I remember. And there's so many people in our network. Eric Lindbergh runs an endowment. Eric was chairman of a company that was in the diamonds industry. And then, as he likes to say, sort of did terrible things to Africa and never gave back. And he started a Shark Tank in 2 countries where they were sourcing diamonds. So I think we have a lot of touch points. Where it leads, worst case, it's educational. Best case, we find a series of funds, or when there are deals that come up, if we have some venture funds, maybe some private equity funds, not the huge funds. And again, I don't know if Susan's got some interesting, if there's some connectivity to us, we'll look at some deals, of course, what you're doing, Cedric, and whatnot. So just want to showcase, why we should be thinking about Africa, right? And so let me open it up and how best can we do that to be effective? VJ.
Okay, thanks a lot. As you know, working on the UN and private equity, I'm benefiting from 361 in so many ways. And I think, this is going back to when I was working with one or two of the big banks in New York. The problem we have, even the problem I have right now, I've got 3 deals that are on the table, but getting them up into shape for the investors and it to be ready in a template form to even be considered by the investors, I think this is where 361 really, really kicks into gear. Already there's a network of people who are helping me on new ventures and stuff like that. So that's where I would like, is maybe 361 provides a space for people to come to and say, look, this is a deal that I have. How can we make it better to be presented to investors? Then also having the outreach that you provide to investors, as well as networking, because through 361, I've met Solomon, I've met others who are giving me stuff on solar powered refrigeration units for motorbikes and stuff like that. So I'll keep quiet. That's where I see.
That's a broader, I get that, and thank you. I'm just thinking more that as it relates to, I can respond to that a bit, but I will say that we'll try to help the entrepreneurs or the project people, assemble their team, their docs, but someone needs to lead a deal, and we need to have more fund managers that know Africa and have made mistakes in Africa and have learned from it. And those are the people I want to turn to them. And then I'm going to say, what do you think of Vijay's deal? Having random people is good, but I want to have an entourage of funds. And along the way, we'll look at deals. We'll learn how to do things, but and try to help the entrepreneurs like you. But I'd love to back to how do we program this, Looney?
Yeah, Mark, I can help you if you just tell me how many fund managers do you want, right? And I'll get your range of styles and geographies.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're trying to do, and we've been talking about this amongst our banking team, is it's some at your stage, some accelerator too. I know it. Does Antler have an Africa version?
Yeah, they do.
So I mean, it's an ocean. Like, there's no real competition. And then say seed to A funds. Some, I don't think if we go maybe some early growth, maybe even private equity growth buyout, small emerging managers, and hedge fund or two that as an Africa desk possibly. Private credit, you mentioned, Chris, if there's a way to it's mentioning whether it's working capital, ABL, maybe there's some other strategies, that are more industry focused. I really think the ag sector is we've talked about that some specialty verticals, which could be across those asset classes or in one of those. That's how I would generally think about it.
Okay, what's your ideal number? How many do you do in an equivalent webinar?
Well, that depends on number of bankers we have that lead and co-lead this with us, whether we bring them into the platform or leverage them. Michael is a great global generalist, but we need so we could pick up like you and Antler or something like that. You're global, but we could pick up, 1 to 2, and then we'd have to pick up. We'd have to assemble a banking team to grow it further.
So there are two people I could probably introduce to the mix based on what you said. One, a mentor of mine, he's the founder of Helios. Helios is a private equity shop that invests across Africa. It's one of the largest, more successful ones. The second is a director at the Africa FinTech Foundry. So that's a FinTech accelerator that's spun out of, or well, not spun out, it's owned by Access Bank, one of the largest retail banks, well, retail and merchant banking outfits in Nigeria. So those would be two people I could potentially introduce if you think they'll be useful to a conversation.
Sure. I mean, look, even if we're not raising money for them, you mentioned Access. That when we did metals and minerals and power plants, my family office, we were looking for co-investors. We would, a lot of London private equity will cover Africa, so we could get their perspective. They're the kind of people that you go to, would be.
Yeah, I can help you on the VC side. I co-spoke at Suncorp Africa with a new fund called the King's Fund, run by Chanza Capital. All the way up to, I'm talking to a group out of South Africa called South Suez. That's a fund of funds. So maybe look. I like it for these kind of environments that we don't know. Fund of funds are a smart play. Yeah, so they're headed. Their path to raise money is to go public. So they're in the process of listing in the Mauritius Exchange.
Mark?
Yep.
So there's two capital funds I'm already working with. VC funds called Maris Capital. They're based in Africa. And then the African Development Bank, Islamic Development Bank, are people that should be a part of the conversation because they invest directly with a lot of money on the ground. And there's another fund which is opening up in South Africa itself. So if that's the kind of individuals, we can definitely bring them to the table and increase fold.
Okay, so I don't want to overemphasize funds. We definitely, our crowd would like to see a few real CEOs, doing things.
Well,
Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, trying to, I might be able to volunteer a friend of mine, Keith Matthews, who was seconded to the African Development Bank by Melvini and Meyer. And now he works for the Gates Foundation.
Well, I graduated in '93 Michigan law with him.
Oh, okay.
And when I went through Seattle, he couldn't make it to the roundtable. He couldn't make it to the Impact. He seems too busy.
He's hard to
but
pin
maybe
down.
if you ask him. But yeah, that's exactly, because we got so many things we want to do with Gates Foundation and Keith, and that's great. So that's interesting. He was seconded. Interesting. Yeah. So one of our venture funds had a company called Manus Bio that synthetic bio that creates a molecule that cures malaria. That you can do it through a certain secretion of a tree, but they can do it at industrial scale. And Gates is giving them a lot of money. So, and he knows, so connectivity, Solomade, Tibubu is on Melinda's side. We know people, but we've never gotten them involved. So we'd love to. And yeah, I've got a few more ideas. That's great. So I'm taking notes and recording, so we'll try to sum up some of these things. But yeah, if there's maybe there's some company that's from Africa that's doing things outside that looks to expand. What are the darlings of Africa today?
We're working with a group out of South Africa. They formerly were more of a conglomerate, logistics, energy, but they primarily are now just focused on medical cannabis. But from the pharma and wellness side, they are publicly traded, and we're looking to cross-list them up to the LSE. But the CEO, he's a 30-year pharma vet. They are moving into the bioplastics, the automobile manufacturing industry is big down in South Africa, but he could be a good guest for kind of a cross perspective of being on the ground, raising a capital, private, public. So and a few of those individuals that can maybe contribute.
That sounds great. So I'll try to take notes and summarize, and maybe people can volunteer to make some intros to us. And we can have maybe a last call. We can have a series of these. I just want to, it's my fault, I keep delaying. I just want to get it going. It doesn't have to be, a summit. It's just like an hour and a half, 2 hours. We can make it longer, depending on how many people. And sprinkle in these kind of people, funds.
There's a media company in London called Private Equity Africa. I've done a lot of work with them in the past, and they've hosted over the last 10 years multiple private equity events, from dinners to awards nights. They have a magazine and an online news channel. If we want to do something that would get some more media, then it's probably worth speaking with them as well. And your earlier question around companies in Africa that are the darlings, from my perspective, or the ones I've seen that are doing great things, they're only really expanding on the continent because there are many other countries and regions within the continent and opportunities that they can capitalize on. Not many, I haven't seen any that want to expand their sales or consumer base outside of the continent right now. But there are a few that have, quite a few have trading partners and financial partners that are a lot more global. where the
Okay.
greatest footprint still remains within the continent.
But that's just a theme. We want to help companies particularly if we might raise money and invest in them, we can be helpful. Do you have anybody in your portfolio, Looney, that's particularly exciting? Breakout?
Exciting. I have a handful that are above $1 million a year. That's generally a milestone that makes them interesting to people. But the biggest one I have just does aggregation of fruits and vegetables. Nice and simple business. The technology is called trucks and cold storage. They've been growing about 50% year over year.
That's well, those are great stories too.
Yeah, 28, 29-year-old CEO started it, what's like 6 years ago with $4 grand.
Wow, that's great. You gave them capital at what point?
We were the first institution in. We gave them $17,000 back in 2015. A handful of angels gave him 50 as a loan, and that got him to $1 million a year. Last year was 3.3. This year should be just shy of 6. So, and he's always raising money, but in terms of ask, he'll have an ask for the room.
What his so which country?
This is in Tanzania.
Tanzania. What about the dynamic? What about the multilaterals? Should we be inviting them? The IFC. We've got somebody from the Chinese.
I haven't seen Chinese play in bigger spaces. Chinese are doing infrastructure. But if you want, if you want the DFIs to show up, I have connections to either the DFC here in the States or African Development Bank or IFC.
Yeah, because I would always work with BBRD or the IADB or I think the African Development Bank and the IFC, because the IFC invests in funds. I used to go to MPIA.
I don't know anyone in any of those groups that are good speakers.
I know loads.
They tend
I know
to be boring.
IFC. Just this morning, I was with people from EBRD, and also the Turkish government have their own sort of investment banks, which will help private investment in Africa on big infrastructure programs like the South Sudan airport, roads, and also the guy who's in charge of the Silk Road project for the UN and the Chinese. He's an ex-boss of mine. So, if you want speakers, these are the people you would like to have in the room. The UN coordinator for China, who was previously in Kenya. So there are speakers there. But the question you have is, what kind of
elements?
What kind of panel are you going for? Are you going for a panel that is going to help? A lot of as someone has already said, a lot of the companies that we're working with on the ground are so focused just within their national boundaries or regional boundaries that other than if they're exporting to the EU or the US, they don't go beyond that.
The opportunity, the biggest opportunity is not the export market. The biggest opportunity is just feeding the people. Feed, food, energy, all the services that are needed to grow the continent. That's where the money's going to be made. One other speaker comes to mind is AgDevCo. So that's it's a fund out of London, but it's 99% funded from UK government. So it's like a DFI, but run more like a for-profit. And so he'll have stories of actually making money in Africa.
So if I'm thinking of a theme, like in cannabis, we did like the supply chain, upstream, the grow, processing, downstream to the market. I'm just trying to think, what could our theme be here? And the other thing that we do is like, even with what we're doing with the future of women, sorry, the future is female. We come up with we ask people, how do we enable the future being female, and to share insights. So once maybe it's what we need to do is, it sounds like ag is the low-hanging fruit, or one of the low-hanging fruits, where we could get our ag people involved with ag, people like Richard Lackey, and who we all know. But maybe there's, I just need to echo what you guys think the theme should be, and if maybe it's like macro. These are the things you'd expect out of Africa. Maybe there are resources in some of the markets that are growing. They have been consumer markets. There are some SME funds that would make sense. Impact hits ag. So I'm just trying to figure out what themes would bring people that are then lead to actionable next steps.
I agree with you at agriculture. That's a big one, especially in Nigeria, and I think in many countries on the continent. Agriculture is quite a significant employer and a large contributor to GDP for most of the African countries.
But it should be much more.
Well, I think the thing about culture is that there's like, I'm working on polyphenols and stuff like that. There's our culture, which the big boys are coming in and doing, the banana and the vegetables and everything for exporting to the EU. But there's a space in there which is going to be much more interesting, is how do you use the leftovers of the cocoa shells, and how is that another industry that needs nurturing? How do you dry the leftovers of the coconuts, and that's another edge, which I think it's coming because a lot of polyphenols are now going to be used in the US markets for dietary products, for the pharmaceuticals are culture, but I think in our culture we should try and go for the innovative approach of our culture, not the big pharma, because you've already got the likes of Sainsbury's and Waitrose who've invested heavily in big plants. So, and a lot of it's concession farming.
So maybe what I do, I'll create an agenda with keynotes, 2 or 3 panels, subjects. Maybe I throw some people on. Sometimes I have an opening panel that it is a hodgepodge. So we have different, and then we go into 1 or 2. It could be ag and impact, something else, and then we could have roundtables, breakouts, and then you guys tell me where you see people, whether you agree or not, tweak it. We can create a Google Doc that everybody can comment on, and then we can invite some outside people to fit some slots. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you really can't invite anybody until they know what they're sort of coming to. And then look, if Keith Matthews or something, if he can get some, if a major keynote appears or rises, and please be, if you've got anybody, it could be someone who's a major investor, who is Parsons from AOL, and who is it? From Cosmetics and Lauder. They teamed up to create an African fund. And they showed me a deal out of Cairo, nutraceuticals, like they're a family office backed platform investing in lower middle market private equity. Has anyone seen them?
I hadn't seen them, but I hadn't seen them, but I did send you the Coors backed, Coors family had backed that one, and also I think Carlyle had also backed another, Rubenstein specifically. But let me do some seeking around for more family office focused funds.
Yeah, 2003 at the IMPEA conference, Rubenstein said the ultimate emerging market, we all need to focus on Africa. I wonder how much Carlyle's done in Africa in the last 20 years.
In our time,
a lot of talk.
It seems there's quite a void between the large family offices that you're mentioning there, the groups that Looney mentioned, and then the truly smaller opportunities that are a little more localized, and connecting that smaller group with the larger capital, it seems where the opportunity, but right now there's quite a void.
Yeah, we call that the missing middle.
A missing middle. There it is.
Huge.
But I think that 360 has a tremendous opportunity to play the bridge there. It has that banker, sophisticated investor community. It has individuals like Looney and Susan and other individuals, VJ, that are connected to those who are on the ground. So we kind of serve as that initial bridge and then bring that bridge. So those are just observations that over the last 6 months, as we've been hitting the ground pretty hard, US, Europe, as well as Africa, those are observations.
I like your point. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I like your point because right now I'm also talking a lot with Dangote. And Richard is from South Africa, isn't he? He's based in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, BJ Richard from South Africa. Yeah. I'm in New York at the moment.
I keep on expecting Richard to come up behind me at some point because he knows I'm in Bryant Park.
Stop showing off, bro, Brian.
I'm in the office now, Mark.
You know Mark Sussman. Mark Sussman is a good friend of mine, the CEO of Bill and Melinda Gates.
Yeah, I do know him. Know them very well. Obviously, Helen Sussman was a very famous anti-apartheid activist who my family was pretty close to as well.
Yeah. So look, I think it'd be better for us to hear from the people from the ground. Rory Ster is another one I'm talking to, another South African who's quite well known. I think there's enough of us on here who could formulate whatever panel, but it's just to bring the people on. That's all.
Yeah,
and I think
Mark, if I can add,
I think there should hold that thought. I think as you talk about, I think there should be a panel of like 5. Like where someone gives like 2, 3, 4 minutes on what's happening in Nigeria, what's happening in like some of the major countries, South Africa, Egypt, even to give some, and where it's going to be. Egypt's going to be like a top 8 economy on a PPP basis. So Nigeria, these are, if you think in 2040, where is Africa in 2040? Why it matters to even pay if you're an institutional investor. But sorry, go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, Mark, I was just saying, I think it would be good to start the conversation with kind of an economic macro overlay. Happy to reach out to the chief economist, Standard Bank, the largest bank in Africa, where I ran their credit desk for a few years. Also very close to the chairman of Rothschild in Africa. He's a family friend, so maybe they can kind of start off with a macro overlay. There's opportunities. This is what's happening in Africa, and then we can dive into agriculture, commodities, energies, and get some of the guys who are on the call now to provide some experts within those fields. I think we've left out commodities and mining, which I think is very, very critical to the region, especially South Africa, as the commodity boom starts to come in the next kind of 2 to 3 years. South Africa is very, very well positioned for that, and Africa in general. So yeah, that's my thoughts, just to kind of structure it a little bit more. Cool.
And I think we'll let somebody at the beginning provide some data, infographics, set the macro trend, and then it could be maybe just a tour. Like here are the key industries. Someone can speak for ag and speak for mining, speak for this, and then some of the key countries, speak for those countries, and then we end with what's happening, and maybe it's the asset classes, and then we say, look, this is a kickoff. This is why you need to be focused on Africa or this country or this industry, or where the opportunities are by asset classes, and then we can do a dive. We can do a dive on an hour and a half on venture in Africa, as it meets ag or fintech, and then we do another deep dive on maybe that's the way to. Maybe that's the way to do it. What do people think about that? So to get a generalist tour de force of Africa, and then lead to go deeper as it relates to an asset class and an industry.
But Mark, are we talking about one event or several subsequent events?
Well, first I have a very long-term view about everything. So this is just a kickoff to get us focused on Africa.
Okay.
To go along with, I think all that makes complete sense, but just kind of going back to VJ, as we think of subsequent events, the ability to leverage the community to help get deals in, addressable and recognizable shape for the rest of the group, I think there's a lot of value to that, Africa or otherwise.
Yeah, so our strategic advisor initiative, it sort of went to the second burner. We're basically looking for leadership, and I think we're finding it, and we're going to feature all these different, like, you might not see it here. We have a new logo. We have a whole new redesign. We have a whole new, I'm just leaning on all these strategic advisors to do all this stuff, and everyone else can too. So that's going to come to the floor, but it's, I don't know, Michael, if Michael's still on. I'm just personally getting I'm trying to delegate so I can go build again. I got involved with, which I love. I can't help but get involved with deals. But we'll get there. I mean, it's sort of happening now.
I just
You
have
sort
a
of connect.
question, or
Yeah.
maybe it's a suggestion. It's a little of both.
Of course.
Have we made a clean distinction between MENA and Africa?
Okay, I'm glad you raised that, because every time you said Egypt, I could see a lot of people in the room who are African specialists who are like, no, Egypt is part of MENA now, and it's that whole debate. Africa's 45 countries or 44, depending who you count, and after NASA, Egypt suddenly is part of Africa and then isn't part of Africa. So I'm glad you raised it.
We'll leave it out. We'll leave them. We'll leave MENA for MENA.
I'm only joking. Listen, Mark, the real essence of, look, we can do panels and everything, invite everyone, but the real value you have is you're providing a market space of supply and demand. If I was to invite people to speak, they'll be going to me, why are you any different? I'll be saying, look, this is a network of hedge funds where you have direct access to people who will say yay or nay and not waste your time, or help you create that deck that will get to.
Yeah. That part, yeah, right. I think we have to manage our expectations. People are not going to act on Africa so quickly. I think we need to educate to get their trust chains developed, and let them dabble. But you're making a different point, which is more general, is where people help each other. I think I look back. We're looking at all of our deals, and every deal was catalyzed by a person. They had to rely on someone to look at that technology, to know that country, to know that founder, or know a co-investor. The people factor is huge, no doubt. Okay, I think I got my marching orders, and we'll summarize it, and then we'll keep it to this group. People can comment. Some people couldn't make it. And then this will be one of many.
Mark, what is, and maybe I missed this, apologies again. What is the timeline on this?
Well, let's just say as soon as we get it in stone, we can do a save the date. You got to get like a little 4 to 6 weeks out. I mean, if you said I had to do it next week, of course we could, but if you want to get the numbers up, we do it either on a Tuesday. I mean, our 11 o'clock seems to work. We're not going to lose Africa. We're going to maybe lose Asia, pick up the West Coast. So it could be after one of our briefings. Or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday around like 11:30 to 1:30. Now, summer is coming, good and bad. So and by the way, you know, in November, we're gonna the whole week of I'm gonna look at my calendar. 2 seconds. So November 15th and 19th, it's a whole week of morning and afternoon events around the world. Meeting in New York, we're gathering at DLA Piper. DLA is offering its offices around the world, so we're gonna have some, you know, meeting hybrid, and I'm literally gonna be moving around the world, and I've never been to Africa. So I led that. I don't know if I'm gonna go to one place in Africa. Where should I go? Where should we focus?
South Africa.
Everybody starts in Nairobi these days.
Nairobi. You have to be mugged in Nairobi.
But on Vijay's earlier point, I was just thinking, yes, if we're trying to build that community, those trust relationships for conversations, instead of us organizing these Africa events, because there are quite a few that already take place, what if we as a group participate and join several other platforms that are organizing Africa events in the short term until we get to the stage that we develop that comfort level and invite them to us?
Yeah, no, we're all about partnering. If you've got, you know, give me a schedule of what's coming up, and we should all just go be checking it out, or we could be partnering with them, co-hosting things. You know, we're doing Ohio with the governor of Ohio, lieutenant governor, who came and spoke at our New York event almost 2 years ago. We can be, you know, so we're that's a different kind of partnership. But if you've got ideas on that,
yes. I'll follow up with you offline. But I think with Private Equity Africa, given they've been doing this for over 10 years, and I'm sure you've heard about their events. If I had to speak to Gail, the founder, should be open to some sort of partnership where, you know, we can attend maybe the next event and start to, you know, build up our knowledge. Yeah, that's the one, the first one.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Who do you know?
Gail Mwamba.
Okay.
That's founder.
Okay. Yeah, and one thing, you know, that we should involve them in our event this time.
I think so.
We're doing a deal with SoftBank China. There's a deal happening, so maybe we can bring the SoftBank. I mean, they don't need our money, so that's usually not the type of people. But what, you know, what they got to. But yeah, let's bring Gail in. We have a lot of connections.
Maybe 10 years ago, the conversations around that knowledge building around Africa were prevalent from a London, UK perspective, that is. Now, people are further along that journey. And if we to engage, we probably need to jog a little quicker to step up to where folks are in that conversation.
So I just noticed Rajiv Shah is a Michigan guy. He could be, you know, maybe he's a keynote at some point. Yeah, that's a great idea. She looks. Kenneth was on our call Tuesday. Kenneth Fergesi. I don't know if you know him. Uganda.
Oh, yeah. They did an event last week as well. Investure.
Okay.
The company, they had a pitch event.
Did anyone else know Clota? Or Richard we saw. Yeah, Vishnu's awesome, but I don't know if he's doing much in Africa. So that's good. All right, well, I'll try to summarize this, and yeah, I'm always looking for someone like code. Just say the way you can see the way we do things. Boom. I'm trying to get slide 43 here, filled up. I'll show you. 40. Well, one, you can see our pipeline. We have one Africa deal, gas meth, but so by geography, we've got India, Korea, no one on Africa. That's on our banking teams. You saw Michael. Michael sort of is a general. He's global. He spent time in London. And then we have groups we have the industry groups, asset class groups. But I guess what I actually would be helpful for me is to find like a boutique, but international, banks that have deal flow, or who, or even maybe they raise money for funds and we could team with them.
I have
that
one.
would also be helpful.
I have one for you, Mark. Burbridge Capital out of Kenya. They actually are working with the UK development, I don't know if it's development bank, development, whatever.
What's the name again?
Burbridge, BURBRIDGE.
Okay. Like that?
Yes. But maybe it's not capital. Give me one sec. But they're working with the UK Development Bank to help identify manufacturing opportunities on the continent.
Great. Hey, I got 11 o'clock that I need to join, but I'll try to summarize, and I'll just lean on you all to help tweak it, and then we'll start to. You can share it with your network, and then we'll put a save the date, and we'll make it happen.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
guys. Bye.
And Erica, you can tell Larry, or you can tell me.
I will. Have a good day. Thank you, everyone.
You too.
Bye, everyone.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.